Welcome, everybody, to Geekvice, episode 145, proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. My name's Morph, that man's Kip, and we've had technical difficulties out the wazoo. I'm trying not to use words that would get explicit tags. Tonight has been not a good night for us. We're starting about an hour late. We are back on Hangouts on Air, trying to make this work because Skype wasn't working. So, good evening, Kip.
Good evening. I think we need to run like I don't know if a Kickstarter or a fundraiser of some sort to help Gardner, Kansas get faster internet.
Well, I don't know that my faster internet is really the problem because I get higher speeds on my computer than you do on yours with Google Fiber. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know if it's I don't know. I'm going to blame my computer. I was thinking that maybe my firewall was blocking Skype for whatever reason, so I unblocked it on all accounts for Skype, which I'm sure is going to come back to haunt me later. But for some reason, Skype is just not working. Therefore, this is the only other way we have to do this. So we're going to give it a shot anyway because we have such a good topic, and we've got a full schedule for the next few weeks on what's gonna be on the show. So, and we will get into that at the end of this show. But first things first, I wanted to talk about a little YouTube series that I've been watching called Critical Role. And it's a bunch of nerdy-ass voice actors, to quote Matt Mercer, the GM for it, that are playing Dungeons & Dragons. So they're playing 5th Ed Dungeons & Dragons, and they've been doing this for a while now. And actually, I think it might be approaching 2 years, or maybe a year. I don't know. Maybe it's only been a year. Maybe it's a little over a year. Either way, they've been doing it for a long time. They play once a week. They play on Thursday nights. They stream it on Twitch through the Geek and Sundries page. And so here recently with, let's see, they're recording, today is Tuesday, so recording on Thursday, so it would have been 2 weeks from Thursday. The episode that went up was a particular battle where a singular character, the character's name is Percy, played by Taliesin Jeffries, I think is his last name. Really good, and he's their veteran D&D player, you can tell. But it was kind of characters that they were battling. Excuse me. The characters they were battling are tied directly to Percy's past. They were people that they've run into before, and that person escaped, and so the storyline is really good, but you could tell with the way the battle was going that it was not going to end well for the party. And sure enough, spoilers here, everybody, you're 2 weeks late if you haven't watched it yet. That's your problem. Go back and watch the show. But Percy ends up dying, and several other characters end up becoming knocked unconscious. Well, we talked about in Kip and in Mai's actual D&D campaign that we were playing, where we had an encounter where we had a lot of people go down, and it was very close to some of us dying. Well, this was very similar to that, except Taliesin's character, Percy, actually died. Flat out died. Failed 3 death saving throws. Dead. Dead as a doorknob. But what happened on Twitter was what kind of got me thinking about this. And on Twitter, there was a lot of people that came out saying that Matt Mercer, the GM, used basically killed Percy on purpose. That he used his role as GM to influence the outcome of the battle instead of letting the rules and the dice rolls play out. And so it got me thinking about that fine line that a GM has to follow. And is it more important for the GM to follow the rules of the game or to tell a story? Because the story that Matt Mercer told, that was noteworthy all in and of itself. I mean, that was incredible, and the drama that it built up in the battle and the way it all worked was huge. So big that the next week, when they were going to, because they ended the episode with some of the characters just barely surviving, Percy being dead, and they end it for the night, and yet they had to wait a whole nother week, which was last Thursday. Last Thursday's broadcast, their Twitch stream, set records for Geek and Sundry on the number of people that tuned in to watch the live stream of this show. So the story, I mean, it was like a cliffhanger of a season ender, and the next week's the season premiere. It was that kind of drama and suspense to it. But that got me, then it was like, well, did he break the rules? Did he do something that really he shouldn't have done? So I guess I asked the question to you. I know you haven't watched any of this, but your thoughts on the GMs, should GMs flex the rules a little bit to tell the story, or should they stick strictly to the rules?
Well, coming from a campaign, the first campaign I was ever in was 3.5, and then we converted it over to Pathfinder, so it's still, to me, it's still D&D. I think our GM bent the rules quite a few times so we would survive. I think the whole idea of the campaign is to play and to have fun, and you would like to keep everybody engaged and actually allowed to play. So I think to continue the story going forward, not to cause people not to be able to play anymore, I think the GM does have to bend some rules every now and then, especially when your party is as dumb as my party was. There were times where I'm sure our GM was just shaking his head going, idiots.
Well, and that's one thing, bending the rules to help your players, because the story in the end, the whole game can't be played without players. So
right.
you need them to an extent, but what about bending the rules to to punish the players, to basically kill a particular player?
So is that what he did? He was he mad at them?
No, I don't think he was really punishing the players. I don't think he changed any of the rules because he was mad at the players. I think he bent some of the rules in order to tell the story that he wanted, and make the drama and suspense just that much at that higher of a level, which then in turn backfired when the characters didn't end up rolling well enough to survive the encounter. But so and I personally don't think he did anything wrong. I don't think that Matt Mercer, the GM, I don't think the GM did anything wrong in this, and I don't necessarily think that. Um, I think maybe there was just some Twitter hate out there because a character died, and that brings up a lot of pain for some people, especially people who follow the show. You get a It's like watching any sports team. If you become a fan of that sports team, watching them lose is painful to an extent. Some people get a little more invested into it than others. So I think that's where some of the hatred was coming from. So watching this, I had to reach out to our GM that we use, Brad, um, who does all of our games, did your 3.5 campaign that I ended up joining in after you guys switched to Pathfinder. He's doing our 5e campaign right now, and he's got tons and tons of D&D and of playing and GMing experience. So, and he watches Critical Role. So I reached out to him and kind of wanted to get his feel of things. And the part that he brought up the most was that he felt like the bad guys sustained a lot of damage without going down, particularly just to get that one more hit on Percy. They targeted Percy, which made sense because these were characters that were from Percy's past that had specifically said they were going to kill Percy. Like that, it's that, that enemy's mentality. Like, okay, this is the person that has done me wrong. I'm going to get that person. That makes sense to me, and I think that fit with the way the story was being told and the characters. So I don't think the GM had the characters, the NPCs, do anything that was out of their realm or that defied the enemy logic or the enemy AI, if you would. Um, but they did seem to take a lot of damage. Now, um, it's hard to tell when you're talking. When we play our game, what level are you? You're a third level barbarian, third level half orc.
What level did you just become?
I think I am 5.
Yeah, so I'm 3.
So you're 3. So I
Yeah.
mean, we're so low level that our hit points are minimal. These guys are level 15, I think, 16. I mean, they're way up there. I know they talk about Grog in this battle. It wasn't until the end that Grog actually went to double digits. He spent most of the battle over 100 hit points. Um, so it would make sense that the other characters, that the enemy characters, would have a lot of hit points as well. So I don't, I don't know, but it just brought up a. I can't second guess anything. I mean, these do have the characters that are playing, the voice actors that are playing. They do make mistakes, just like the rest of us playing D&D. They forget about certain spells. They might not equip the right spells, or the GM might, know, oh, hey, these people like using these particular things, so I'm going to throw this, enemy at them that doesn't allow them to use the stuff that they normally use. Um, which, you and I have experienced that with Brad. Brad will do that to us every once in a while.
Oh
So,
yeah.
um, I don't know. I just thought this was interesting. When I started asking Brad about the idea um, in the episode of Critical Role where Percy dies, they went through actually 3 different battles before they got to that last one, and they did it all without resting. So they went through things where they lost spell after spell or used up ability after ability, and it got to the point where in the last battle, um, their rogues' haste ability was gone; it had been used up. Their magic users had used up a lot of their spells and didn't have any left. By the end of the battle, they had no spells left. Uh, so to me, I felt like there was something in there. But Brad pointed out to me that that a standard at level challenge is supposed to use about a quarter of the party's resources. When you get into the tougher challenges, it takes a little bit more, and easier challenges would take a little bit less of the resources. But the idea is that battles in D&D, as you get to the higher levels, are a war of attrition. It's a battle to see how long can you actually last before you do start running out of stuff. Can you manage your resources adequately? It becomes almost like a resource management type game. And I would say I don't think the party did a very good job of utilizing their resources or saving up their resources. But knowing that they were going to run into this battle, that's specifically what they were running towards, they walked into it. Plus, they fell into a nice little trap that he set for them that caused a pretty big explosion and took a lot of hit points from some of the characters. So, I mean, I think it was just compounded on everything. I don't know. It was quite interesting to see this and to see the follow up, the backlash, the Twitter backlash, if you will.
You know, they are entertainers, and they are, for like it or not, they are playing a game, but they are trying to make somewhat of a living off of this game, so they do have to do some things to capture people's attention. So, maybe he did make the battle more than using up 25% of the resources. Maybe he thought, I will just make this an even fight, so you're going to have to use everything you've got. And maybe he thought it wasn't quite going to be where they use everything and somebody's going to die. But I figure he's probably thinking this is going to be an epic enough battle that people are going to want to tune in next week to see what ends up happening. And, that's not only that's an extra part of his job that most GMs don't have, and that is he not only has to entertain his players, he's got to entertain the people watching on YouTube. So
yeah,
that adds an extra dynamic to what he's trying to do.
And it's got to add a lot to the storytelling that he does too. So I will say, if you guys haven't watched it, you should definitely check it out. It's, for nothing else, it is entertaining to watch actors act, but have some emotional attachment to the characters. So these people have been playing, I looked it up, they're at 68 episodes on that they've done on Twitch. So they have been online for about a year, a little over a year. But they were playing these characters for a year or two before they went on Twitch. So these characters are characters they've been playing for a long time, and they have an emotional attachment to their own characters and each other's characters. So when a character becomes near death, it is a pretty big deal, and you will see them physically, look physically exhausted from it. I mean, watching Percy in this battle, he not only was he talking a mile a minute trying to figure out every little thing, but he was starting to second guess everything that the GM was doing, trying to find every little, possible chance to, not die, because he knew that they were coming for him. And it's entertaining. It is entertaining to watch. So, and really,
I haven't sat down to take the time to watch the show. I did watch the first episode, and the voice actors, you just add a whole nother level to the gameplay that, as a person who has a group that plays, you're sitting there going, man, I wish we could do that.
Yeah. Well,
But
heck,
we don't. We're not professionals, so.
if you just watch the episode from last Thursday where they do resurrect Percy, so he is not dead. They do end up resurrecting him, and not only do they end up resurrecting him, but then they have a scene where they send Percy to bed because he just got, but the rest of them had already slept, so they go to a bar. They go to a tavern, and you have a point where one of the NPCs, played by Matt Mercer, and Grog, who's played by Travis Willingham, and Pike, who is played by Ashley Johnson from The Blind Spot. You have the three of them that drink this, drink, and it's make believe, but it's just part of the game. They drink this alcoholic drink that, if they fail a Constitution saving throw, they basically their face becomes numb and they can't talk right, so they end up slurring their words. Well, these are voice actors, so they start slurring their words, and it is hilarious to listen to, because then you have the characters trying to talk to this NPC to get information out of them, but Mercer is playing it so by the book that he's slurring his words that they don't actually understand what he's saying, and he won't give them anything. So it's and so it's great to listen to this. That whole next, one episode is all combat, the next episode is no combat, but it is so hilarious and so entertaining to watch. That it's, you do. You watch it and you go, man, I wish our group could pull off something like that. I don't think I personally could pull off anything like those guys, but
Oh, I know I couldn't.
man, they are incredible. So that's what I got. Go check them out. It's good times. So the next topic that we have, I'm going to let Kip talk about this, but this is kind of near and dear to Kip's life. So, Kip, what do you got for us?
Take it away. So we just talked about how, these voice actors can do this great job of, becoming the characters and all that. And, I think that takes a certain personality type to be able to do that time and time again, over and over again. And it leads me to thinking about my own personality type. And by trade, I'm a trainer. Luckily I'm not in a classroom every day, but I am in a classroom quite often. And I have noticed that when I have a day where an entire day where I'm in the classroom and I'm the instructor and I have to be what I call on the whole day, when I come home, I am whipped. I have nothing in the tank. And honestly, it didn't work hard. All I did was talk to people and show them how to use the software. But as an introvert, having to be around people and interact with people is not hard. It's not something I hate doing, but it does drain the battery. Extroverts have it made because being around people actually charges their batteries. And I've read this before, how introverts need their quiet time to recharge the batteries, and extroverts actually need to be around people to recharge their batteries. And I really never noticed it. I knew I was an introvert. Yeah, I spent my whole life inside my own head, as an introvert will do. I just recently noticed that being around and being on all day does just completely drain me. When I was younger, going to school and all that other stuff, you think, well, I'm around people all day. Why didn't it drain me then? Was it just because I was young? And I think the answer to that is no. I think it was because I wasn't the center of attention. You could sit in class and just be quiet. Nobody really notices you're there, kind of a thing. So it just got me to thinking, is life harder for an introvert than it is for an extrovert? And I'd say nowadays it is. I think introverts get I'm going to say the benefit of the doubt on a lot of things because you notice them because they are so good at talking off the cuff, answering questions quickly. Even if they're wrong, they seem to come off completely right and have all the answers. And me as an introvert, I need the question presented to me. I need everybody to shut the hell up so I can think about it, and then I can answer it. And I think that is perceived as guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He really doesn't know the subject matter, and it's just totally not true. It's just the way introverts think and are even interact. I don't know. People listening to this podcast have probably heard me stumble over some things, repeat myself incessantly, and it's because of that. Because of the way I think as an introvert, I'm constantly trying to process everything, and I'm not quick to the answers. And so as I'm talking, I'm thinking things out, and I think that causes me to repeat myself a few times and things like this. So I
But
think go ahead.
I think some of that, and like I'm not arguing the fact that that you're an introvert. But I know that when we were talking about this, you would actually put me in the extrovert category. But as I start reading the differences between the two of them, there's one key thing that came to that popped out at me when I was reading this, and an introvert often prefers doing things alone or with one or two people I feel comfortable with.
Yes.
That is both of us to a T. I might come off some of that. I think I can come off as an extrovert when in reality, as long as we're in a small group, because first of all, part of the reason why I don't go to Comic Cons very often is because I don't like those large crowds. The being around people does not charge me. It actually I just don't like it. It makes my skin crawl. I don't like people walking around me. Um, my wife actually has made fun of me at times because I'll be standing, even just at. So a perfect example of this is I'll be standing at soccer practice with my kids, or standing at a soccer field with my kids, and they'll be playing, and I'll be sitting. I'll be sitting in my chair. But if there are people walking behind me or walking around me, I have to get up and move myself away. Like I have to. I can't have all those people doing all this stuff around me, and can't. I don't like them walking behind me. Kind of the same way you and I make fun of you when we go to restaurants because you always have to pick the spot where you can see the door, and and
Yeah, that's why I can see your door on the podcast.
yeah. So, it's, I think we all, well, I think you and I are, maybe I'm a special case. Maybe it's not just you and I. Maybe I'm a special case where I have a little bit of both of them, where I can talk off the cuff. I think that's almost a little genetic because I think my dad is definitely an extrovert. I can guarantee that man can walk into a room and just take control of it just by walking into the room. It knows everybody knows him type thing. And but so I think some of the being able to talk well, honestly, I think doing this podcast has accentuated both yours and mine um, extrovert qualities, because we do have to be able to think and talk at the same time. I know doing this podcast, even though there's actually nobody that really watches this, like there's nobody watching this live. There's very few people that we get to watch live, and there's, in the grand scheme of things, there's your training room probably has more people in it than we have that listen to a podcast at a single moment. So, but just the ability of being able to put on the headset and actually talk about an idea and try to get, and you see me using my hands because that's what I do. When I don't have to hit the other buttons to do other things with Skype, but then I can just talk with my hands. But I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that, though?
Well, I read the book Quiet by Susan Cain, which, whether you're an introvert or extrovert, I highly recommend reading this book, because it kind of explains the reason Morph and I are the way we are, and other people that you may deem quiet. The whole idea of extrovert qualities with an introvert, I think what it is we can, when needed to, just be on. Mm-hmm. There for a while, I thought maybe I'm not really introverted. I'm just a shy extrovert, because if I'm like at a party where I know everybody, or even when I was in high school, I was kind of the life of the party. I was a little bit of a class clown in high school. In a social situation, you see me at the D&D gaming. Mm-hmm. I'm probably one of the people that talks the most. In those kinds of situations, I think introverts can just flip the switch and be on and do what they need to do. I think what separates us is it does wear a person out. It does wear an introvert out.
Yeah.
Plus, after a while, we do just need to sit there and think about just what happened, and talking it out doesn't help. In fact, It makes it worse. What's funny is you were just talking how your dad's the life of the party. My entire family is extroverted except for me. You get together with my family and you go anywhere with my parents, and everywhere they go, people talk to them. Everybody's their best friend. My parents are also very, very big jokesters. So they will incessantly make fun of people, in a good way, not mean, but, tease people at the store and stuff like this.
Right.
So, you're with my parents, you walk into the door and the people look there and go, oh, man, look what the cat dragged in, that kind of thing. I've noticed a lot, being around my parents my entire life, that I could be with my parents in a situation where everybody, like they go to the grocery store and everybody pays attention to them, and I could be standing right there, and then I could come in the next day and tell them who my parents are, and they're like, really? I didn't know they were your parents. It's like, really? I was standing right here yesterday while you were talking to them. But that's just the way it is. It's you get us in a situation where we're not intimately familiar with these people, and we shut down. We will listen to everything they have to say and answer direct questions, but man, small talk is so hard. In fact, I suck at it. People pass me in a hall at work or something and they start up small talk. It's like, oh, shit. I don't know what to say. I can ask you about the weather and then I'm done. I don't know what to talk about. So it is a little more difficult, and it just seems like, well, according to the book, I think she said one out of three is introverted. I feel like that may be high. You know, when I'm at work, it seems like there's only two or three of us that really would rather just be quiet, and everybody else won't shut the hell up.
Well, some of that is the industry that you're in, though.
It was,
There are not very many introverts in engineering.
which is weird. You'd think there would be more.
Well, but I think it's because you have to, in order to be successful in engineering, you have to defend your arguments. You have to be able to
Oh, I can
throw something out.
I can defend my arguments. I'm just surprised. You know,
Yeah.
the stereotype for an engineer is give the guy a problem or girl a problem, and they go back to their desk and they work on it quietly till they figure it out. Sounds totally introverted to me, but
Right.
it just doesn't seem that way in all the places that I've worked. It seems like they're the extroverted ones, and they're, you know, also being an engineer and extroverted. You know, the opportunities present themselves a lot more than somebody who's pretty damn good at the job but is not extroverted.
Right.
You get looked over a lot.
Well, it's hard to sell yourself. Like that's, and I don't know that that's actually maybe that's not an introvert versus extrovert quality, but I mean that's really important, and I know that's something that neither one of us do very well.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, I don't know if that's an introverted quality or not. I'm going to blame it on that because that's just the way I am. You know, we take a different test where I work. I think you took the test when you worked there, the emergenetics.
I never actually ended up taking that test.
It's a pretty fascinating test because it doesn't do the introvert extrovert spectrum kind of like the Myers-Briggs does.
Mm-hmm.
But it does break down the way your brain thinks. But then there's a component of it of how assertive or what's the other words? Dang it. Not only am I having trouble processing, I'm also forgetting words now.
That's just because you're old.
Flexible, I guess, is the best word for it. And, so it's a bar graph.
Right.
And the longer the bar, it's in purple. The more purple you have on this bar graph, basically the more outgoing you are. And on my graph, it's just these little tiny bars at the left-hand end that makes it look like I've never spoken a word in my life. You look at everybody else's, and it's all purple going across there. And it's like, it must be nice. But, yeah, you look at those things and you think, is this truly a hindrance, or is it just perceived on my part because, I'd prefer just to be left the hell alone most of the time? Research has shown that right now, probably in the last, I'm guessing, I'm paraphrasing here, but I'd say in probably the last 50 years, society has turned to where extroverts are perceived as being more knowledgeable, being more charismatic, being more leader quality. Hell, just watch the presidential debate. There's not an introvert among them other than Gary Johnson, who's a libertarian who has no prayer. It used to not be that way. It used to be people who, were more thoughtful and more just logical in their approach was also viewed in high regard. And I think now in the short soundbite age that we're in, if you have to take time to think something out, the moment has passed. And there's that old saying, it's better for people to think you're an idiot than open your mouth and prove it. I think nowadays that doesn't count. I think if you don't say anything, you've just proven you're an idiot in
Yeah.
the way society works today. And it's tough. It's tough for people like you and I.
Well, and especially in this age of quick news cycles and of could you imagine? I mean, I think that's part of the reason why I don't do Twitter well. Anyone who follows Geekvice on Twitter knows that most of the time I'm just retweeting or liking other people's tweets. I don't really tweet a whole lot myself, probably because by the time I come up with something to say on Twitter, the moment's already passed. And that's just because I'm slow and stupid.
Yeah, and when I do jump the gun and put something out there, then somebody immediately writes back and shoots it all down because I
Yeah.
didn't take the time to think about it and didn't see all the sides of the argument. Yeah, it's
So
just an interesting thing. I highly recommend people to read "Quiet" by Susan Cain. I think it's quiet, being an introvert in a world that can't stop talking. I think is the
it's
entire title.
it's quiet. The power of introverts in a world that can't stop talking.
That's the one.
You can get it on
Um,
Kindle for $8.99 or a
which
hardcover
is what I
for
did.
$14.93 on Amazon.
Yep, I got the Kindle version. Every now and then, I'll just break that thing open and read a few chapters. It's an easy read. She presents things not only scientifically, but in a way that actually is easy to read. And her being an introvert herself and what she's accomplished in her life, you realize, okay, being an introvert is not a barrier. It's just a perception thing, and
Right.
we have to be able to not totally expect the world. Hey, just accept me how I am. No, we've kind of have to mold ourselves a little bit more. Here I am introverted. Um, I asked my dad one time. I said, "What was I like as a kid?" Because I expected him to say something like mischievous or something like that. Because I got in trouble a lot. And he goes, "Oh, you were quiet." It's like, thanks, but you don't realize how quiet you are until somebody says something to you. Like, you know, you hardly ever talk. I mean, I got a job one time at a different firm, and I'd say the first month, the only time I talked at work is if somebody asked me a direct question or I had a direct question for somebody else. And then I said something one time out loud, and one of the people went, "Wow, you actually can talk." You don't realize how quiet you are. And I think it's
Yeah.
unsettling for some people. It's like, I wish they would just say something. I don't think people like not knowing what's on your mind.
Yeah.
Um, my wife, she totally hates it. That if something's going on, I'll just sit there quietly and just mull it over and think it out, and it just bugs the hell out of her that I'm not talking about it. It's like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm figuring it out. But
So on if you go to you put a link in here for myersbriggs.org,
yes,
and they have five different statements that apply to both extroverts and introverts. So I kind of want to go through some of these here just
okay,
real quick so that people can kind of they can use this as a gauge themselves to see where they fit. So extroverts, the following statements generally apply to me. I am seen as outgoing or as a people person. I feel comfortable in groups and like working in them. I have a wide range of friends and know lots of people. I sometimes jump too quickly into an activity and don't allow enough time to think it over. Before I start a project, I sometimes forget to stop and get clear on what I want to do and why. So there's your extrovert quality statements, and um, I would say that the first one is I have been called outgoing or a people person. I have been called a people person. I think part of that is because I think what is called I believe it's a type C personality, which is um, or maybe it's AB, where I can actually, my I'm more empathetic. I prefer to please people than to please myself. Um, which sounds really awkward, and I really did not intend that to come out that way. But it's so when I'm working with somebody, when I have to work with somebody, I would rather take more pressure onto myself so that their job is easier and they enjoy their job better than the other way around. Um, if somebody enjoys working with me because for whatever that reason is, I feel like if I take on more work, then they'll enjoy working with me, which will make we'll make things better type thing.
So
So
instead of a people person, you're a people pleaser.
yeah, yeah, that's how I see it. But a lot of the time I've been called a people person, so I will take that one. But with the other ones there, I don't really. Well, I guess the only other one there that I might say that I fit into is I have a wide range of friends and I know lots of people. I do know lots of people, but knowing is kind of a special term there, because do you really know somebody if you know their name, know what they do, know where they work? Is that knowing somebody, or is knowing somebody actually knowing their life and who they are and where they've come from? In that case, there's probably very few people that I know, but I can throw out a whole bunch of names. I can see a lot of faces and know the names that go with those faces, but that doesn't mean that I actually know them. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
totally does. And I think because, we've worked at more than one company, because of social media, because of our neighborhood, stuff like that, you do get to know somebody as the acquaintance sense of the word.
Right.
Calling them friends is probably a stretch. I'm one of those people. I have like a handful of friends, and that's it. Um,
Yeah.
People that I will actually reach out to is probably like five number of people. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I
so,
can understand that.
so if you ever hear from me just out of the blue, you're one of five people in the entire world that I will do that with. So, but
So,
it's the truth. I look at this, and I've never been seen as outgoing or a people person. I feel comfortable in front of a classroom once I get started, but the feeling of dread before I get started is pretty powerful.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll
And I
agree with that.
prefer not to be there until I get started. Um, Sometimes jump too quickly into an activity. I do that every now and then, but I think everybody does.
I don't think anyone's ever confused me about jumping into anything too quickly.
I will start something and then read the instructions when I just get to a point where I can't figure it out.
My wife has yelled at me because it took me too long to put together like a a chest of drawers from Target because I went through, read all the directions, organized all the pieces, sorted out everything, then started putting. Yeah, no, I've never been accused of jumping into any activity too quickly.
Yeah, I have, and I'm not sure that's an introvert extrovert thing. I've just always felt like I've had to do everything in a hurry.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's helped me with my career choice, because you always have to go 110 miles an hour in what we do.
Yeah.
I've always been that way. It's like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do as fast as I can. I'll read the instructions later. That kind of thing. I've always
Yeah.
been that personality.
Yeah. So those were the extroverts. Here, the introverts, the five things for them. The following statements generally apply to me. I am seen as reflective or reserved. I feel comfortable being alone and like things I can do on my own. I prefer to get I prefer to know just a few people well. I sometimes spend too much time reflecting and don't move into action quickly enough. I sometimes forget to check with the outside world to see if my ideas really fit the experience. Now, I don't know that at least nobody's called me reflective or reserved to my face. Um,
You ever had a
maybe that
teacher that say you need to come out of your shell?
I no, I don't think so.
I think
I
every report card I had says that somewhere on it.
Now I have had I do remember teachers. I do remember teachers in when I was in school telling me that I needed to trust myself and speak up more because I know the right answers. I just choose not to answer. Um, but that's not an introvert. That the reasoning for that I've learned wasn't an introvert thing. Um, I have a considerable fear of failure that I have worked really hard to get over, and this podcast has actually helped because I just do it for the love of it and not whether it can be successful or a failure. So that's more of a mindset thing than anything else. We're getting deep into this whole like psychological shit.
I know. I'm starting to scare me. People are going to know me too well.
Yeah. So, but feeling comfortable being alone, and I like things I can do on my own. I'm the guy who doesn't play multiplayer games.
I
I,
do, but I don't turn on my microphone.
yeah, I'm like I don't even like playing them. Like there are games like even Rocket League. You could play Rocket League multiplayer, and you could just get on and play Rocket League. You don't even have to listen to anybody talk. You could just play. Yeah, I play the single player campaign, which really gets kind of boring after a while.
Yeah.
Um, knowing, there's the knowing people part. I think that kind of fits with both of us, what we had already talked about. And sometimes I spend too much time reflecting and don't move into action quickly enough. Yes, that is definitely me. I read the directions. I read the directions. I read the directions again. I organize all my stuff. I make sure that I know what I'm doing. There's a reason why I keep saying I'm going to hardwire my house and get internet through all my rooms so that I don't have to run off of Wi-Fi for all my TVs. But I still haven't done that yet. I've mapped it all out. I just haven't mapped it out enough, apparently. Again, not moving into action quickly enough. And now I don't quite understand the last statement. Forgetting to check with the outside world to see if my ideas really fit the experience. I don't really know what that means.
I think to me, what it means is you ever think something out in your head, and then when you say it out loud, it doesn't come off very well.
Oh yeah.
I,
Yep.
I think that's what that means.
Okay. That
Yeah,
makes perfect sense. Yep. That's me. Just ask my wife.
yeah. Like, wow, that sounded so much better in my head. Um, Sometimes I spend too much time reflecting and don't move into action quickly enough. I do that a lot, especially when I'm purchasing something.
Yeah.
I just ask my wife because I will think about something and research and probably look at it for like a year, and then one day it's like, well, let's go buy it. But it took me like 12 months to make the decision on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, one day I'm going to be buying a new car. I have almost 220,000 on mine. I bet you by the time I get around to it, I'm going to have 250,000 miles on it because I for the last 8 months I've been doing research, and I can see myself doing it for another year
Yeah.
before I finally go, you know what, I think this is the one I want. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell on
Yep.
some things.
So there you go, everybody. There's your introverts, extroverts. I I think this is a really good topic, and I really do think that um, I want to check out this book. I do think that the world has kind of moved towards an extrovert. I think the news cycle has done it. I think Twitter has done it. I think Facebook has done it. The just I think all of that has kind of played more to, I think the world has played more towards the extrovert and has kind of pushed the introvert aside. But I also think there are ways for introverts to get out there, and I honestly think podcasting is one of them because you don't have to be standing in front of a group of people. You can just sit there in your by yourself or with you and I as just the two of us, um, and carry on a conversation and have a topic to discuss that doesn't require that doesn't require off the cuff and can utilize can allow the introvert to use the abilities and this play to their strengths. I think podcasting can do that. So
Yeah, especially when you're video podcasting, then you can hide the screen so you're not making eye contact with the other person while you're
yeah,
talking. That helps quite a bit.
yeah,
I notice
exactly.
myself like staring at my pen or my keyboard, or I'll just flip to another web page and look at that, so I'm not actually feeling like I'm talking to anybody.
Yeah,
It
I
helps
can
quite a bit.
understand that completely. Well, I think we're going to put an end to this episode. Sorry, guys, for the technical difficulties. We will try to get these worked out in the near future, and maybe we can get back to trying to have all the fancy stuff like live chat that I really want to have going. So, um, as usual, you can check out our blog. You can find us at geekspot.blogspot.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/geekvice. You can also use the Facebook page to access YouTube. All of our YouTube videos are on Facebook. Just look on our Facebook page, and on the left-hand side there are two links there. One is for Libsyn, which will be the audio podcast. The other one is YouTube. So you can get those both there. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow that man over there at Kip Killigan. You can follow me at Geekvice. And of course, you can always reach us on our email at geekvice@gmail.com. Thanks, everybody, for listening to our ramblings, and we will see you next week.
See ya.